welcome back to another video here on the Pitchside Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the VSP, and of course, as I mentioned earlier in the last video that I uploaded, talking about Thomas Tuchel being sacked, that the couple of managers that are left really to do that job are the few biggest names really left that are Allegri and Pochettino, and indeed it was Mauricio Pochettino who got the job. Reportedly he's close to finalise the deal or sign the deal. I mean, by this time maybe it would have been a done deal now. I couldn't wrap my head around it really, because it looked too much easy to just, one day sack Tuchel and the next day, and not just the next day, like on the same day, talking with Pochettino and getting him to be on the job and to be the head coach of the club. It felt like too much of a conspiracy against Thomas Tuchel really. The guy was doing just, I think, about fine with PSG, got him to the Champions League final last season. It feels a lot like what happened exactly to Pochettino with Tottenham. He got to a Champions League final, then he started being vocal about the transfer window of the club, and then the results, of course, came in to throw more shades at him, and then he was sacked. Similar story, I think, with Thomas Tuchel. The guy was doing just fine. The first season, as I mentioned in the other video, was horrendous, and then the second season was even better, having a treble, a final of the Champions League, putting PSG on the map pretty much in that season really, and having a great team on his disposal. But his problem was that he was too vocal really. If anything, like, if people don't understand by now that this is sort of, we don't like this guy, so we sacked him, it's not about the results kind of thing, I'm sorry, you don't understand football, or you're not that smart after all. Because I think it's clear to anyone who follows Thomas Tuchel at PSG that the guy has been vocal of the club's transfer policy, and the recent transfer window in particular has been not exactly the kind of one that Thomas Tuchel wanted, because they brought players who are not necessarily the profile of players that Thomas Tuchel would want. They don't fill the right jobs at the right places really for the club. They don't really help his tactical model quite a lot. He wasn't exactly convinced of some of these players. And then, of course, you have the last interview that sort of been out of context. I mean, wrongly contextualized, let's put it this way. It was contextualized in the wrong way, misunderstood, mistranslated, whatever you want to name it, but it's really all about the fact that Thomas Tuchel is sacked now and Pochettino is the man in the job. But does it make sense? Does Pochettino on the helm of PSG make sense? From a big name kind of thing, it does, because really Pochettino is one of the biggest names managerial available at the moment. Aside from Allegri, the market is starving for truly great managers, like truly big name managers who could take big teams to achieve big things in Europe, or in France, that is. Massimiliano Allegri and Pochettino are the only couple of names left, and since now they got Pochettino, the next thing is, what is going to be done for PSG? How are the guys going to be changing the team? What are the players that are going to be demanding to get? Because certainly Pochettino knows that the board of the club is not exactly adamant on bringing every player that the coach wants. He is a former player of PSG, yes. I mean, but not a legend in any way of PSG, not even close really. Like, who are we kidding? It doesn't make sense really that the guy has been, he's been coaching Tottenham. Aside that, I don't want to say rebuilt, but it's almost sort of revitalised Tottenham in those last 4 years, made them close to contending for titles, improved their status in Europe, made them constant Champions League presence for all that matters really, until last season at least. He made them a constant presence in the Champions League. He took them to new heights, let's admit that. But at PSG, the situation is going to be different, because PSG now already achieved those new heights. Now, they dominate France. They're winning the league by ease, pretty much. I mean, this season might sound different, but eventually probably it would be PSG winning. But he took Tottenham to new heights that PSG already achieved. Champions League final already achieved PSG. So the only step forward that he can make is to win the Champions League, to actually win that trophy, because that is going to put them on another pedestal, both in France and in Europe. Like in France, in terms of the Champions League, they're still disregarded because Marseille, the only side who brought that trophy home from numerous French sides trying to do that previously. Olympique Lyonnais tried, Reims tried, Paris Saint-Germain themselves, of course, recently tried that. Saint-Etienne tried it back in the days and they couldn't do it. So Marseille are still to this day heralded in France as the only side to win the Champions League, and that puts them in a different pedestal. The only side who has that star related to the Champions League. Pochettino now for PSG, those heights of reaching the final, the near fall, pretty much the close range kind of thing for PSG already happened. They achieved the Champions League final in 2020, and the only step they could go forward now is to win that title, because it's not about France. It's never about France. They can win the treble in France again. Even if they lose one of those 3 titles, it doesn't matter. The Champions League is all what matters. So can Pochettino do that? Can Pochettino be the extra factor to get PSG to the Champions League? And also, more importantly, is he a good character? Is he a great character of a manager to deal with the egos for the likes of Neymar and Mbappe if he stays at the club? And how long are they going to be, on the good graces of each other before everything combusts altogether? Because for a certain amount of time, just recently, everything looked pretty combustible between Neymar and Mbappe in the early goings of the season. And Mbappe was benched for a couple of games, and before the Champions League, there was the cup finals in France, and there was all sorts of problems, and reports have been suggesting that there's a fallout between those players and Tuchel. So is Pochettino a better character? Is Pochettino a stronger character than Thomas Tuchel in terms of dealing with players with egos? Because at Tottenham didn't have those. Yes, there's Harry Kane, probably, there's Heung-min Son, but those are not egos. They are great talents, but you cannot talk about Harry Kane and say, oh, this guy is an ego, this guy is hard to deal with, or Son, or anything like that. It's not the problem. In PSG, it is a problem, because those guys are different. Neymar comes with a reputation, Mbappe now comes with a reputation. Both are highly regarded. Mbappe is a World Cup winner. He's still an up-and-coming player, despite his very, very big success and multiple achievement. He's still a young player that up-and-coming. So is Pochettino a better manager than Tuchel in dealing with those guys? Also, is he going to be a yes man for the board of the club? Because that's what the board of PSG would want, being a yes man for them. If Pochettino is not that guy, expect him to be sacked in the next 18 to 24 months. At the very best, he's not going to make it past 2 seasons if he's going to have a spat with the board of the club. Maybe there will be certain compromises made by both sides. I'm assuming mostly it's going to be the board, because bringing a big name like Pochettino certainly comes with a big compromise. Sort of something that the board has to sacrifice in order to keep Pochettino happy, to keep themselves happy, to keep the club happy, and to keep the atmosphere really well. Because I'm assuming that the atmosphere now at the club is going to be pretty electric and pretty charged after the last couple of hours and this sacking of Thomas Tuchel, which, again, how quickly they got Pochettino to sign the contract and to finalise the deal, it almost feels like conspiracy against Tuchel. And maybe it is. Really, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but maybe it is just about a con job, a screw job for Thomas Tuchel at the club. We'll wait and see how Pochettino is going to deal with the club. We'll wait and see how he's going to fare at the club, how he's going to be dealing with the egos of those players like Neymar and Mbappe, as we mentioned. Is it going to be any better? Is it going to bring them Champions League? All of these questions are, of course, fingers crossed. We'll see what pans out at the end of the season, at least. Is he going to have enough time is he going to adapt quick, or is he going to have enough time to adapt really without the board breathing down his neck and pressurizing him with objectives, because he comes with a reputation as well. So that's that for this little bit of debate really about Pochettino. Could he do the job for PSG? Again, we'll wait and see. Like, comment, share the video, subscribe of course to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates for this kind of videos and the podcast as well on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at SidePSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram. Listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, or wherever you can get it from. And until the next time, I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and I'll see you soon.